Hello and welcome to Garmin's Marine webinar series. I'm Dow Thornton from the Marine team. I'm joined today by Danny Thompson of the Marine team as well. And today's topic, we're going to talk about the 2020-2021 our ice fishing kits. We just released some new product and super excited about those. How are you, Danny?
Doing good. Thanks for having me, Dow.
Yeah, thanks, Danny. Danny is kind of our Garmin's expert when it comes to ice fishing. So he's going to go over, or we're going to go over the ice fishing kits and go over some of the features, what comes with them, and why you may want to go up from, maybe a mid price point one to the new Panoptix or the Panoptix LiveScope bundles. So with that said, we'll get going. All right, so for 2020, 2021, we just released new ice fishing bundles. The Striker 4, the Striker Plus 4, I'm sorry, the Panoptix with PS22, a new Panoptix LiveScope bundle, and we upgraded the previous ECHOMAP Plus units to the new ECHOMAP UHDs, the new 73 as well as a 63 CV. And Danny, I think we were missing probably a couple of things in our lineup last year. I think we've got a pretty good budget friendly, or a good, everything from mild to wild, I guess. What do you think?
Yeah, exactly. We kind of cover the whole spectrum now. Really what we were kind of in need of was one of those entry level units, and the Striker 4 Plus ice fishing bundle really kind of fills that spot. I mean, the price point is very, very good on this unit at $249.99, and it's got the flasher mode. It's got QuickDraw built into it, but it also comes at a great price point and is super lightweight. So I think it's really going to be a great unit for a lot of people looking for something just kind of to get started into ice fishing, or they just need a backup or something like that. So I think that will really help fill up the lineup this year.
This is a great, you made a great point. That is a great entry level product. If you've never ice fished or are thinking about doing it, you didn't want to really spend $400 or $500 or get into Panoptix or Panoptix LiveScope right now. For $249, you can get on the water. And remember, with all of these kits, during the summer months, you can take them on the boat. You'll have to buy a transamount transducer, but hey, take that kit on the boat with you during the summer. Take it in the canoe, take it in the kayak, so you can actually use these units or these kits all year round.
Exactly. And Dow, one cool thing too with the Striker units is we know our ECHOMAPs have all the maps for the whole United States and the Great Lakes and the border waters all built into them. The Strikers don't have the maps built in, but they do have a GPS. So you're getting that flasher as well as getting a GPS. And so we could save, the boat access and a track on our way out to our fishing hole. And if it starts snowing real hard or it gets dark and we want to make it in without having to cross, open cracks or something like that, with the GPS on that Striker 4, I mean, just for safety reasons alone, but being able to save your spots and all that kind of stuff as well, that's a huge feature on a unit at that price point.
Yeah, that's a great point, Danny. So the Striker 4 or the Striker Plus 4 is new. We're going to continue to have the Striker Plus 5 this year. As I mentioned earlier, the ECHOMAP pluses, the 63 and 73, are now our UHD model, our ultra high definition model. We also have Panoptix ice fishing. If you guys know about Panoptix and Panoptix LiveScope, that's kind of the craze right now. And then we have tons of accessories available, which we'll talk about in a minute. But we also have ice fishing kit. So if you already have a Garmin unit and you want to turn it into an ice fishing kit, maybe you've never ice fished before, or you say, hey, I've already got the unit. You can buy the bags. You can buy the bag with the batteries, the transducers. So we have all that available. And also transducers. So again, we offer 3 different transducers, and we're going to probably talk a little bit about a transducer. Not going to spend a lot of time, but the new GT6, that's our new transducer, and that's a dual frequency 77-200 kilohertz. It is a chirping transducer, but it only chirps a few frequencies. And you have a selection of either 15 or 55 degrees, depending on how you want to use that transducer. You can step up to the GT8 high wide. That comes in some of our kits. Again, you're going up to a 250 watt. That high wide transducer, it's great for covering a lot of area. 16 to 24 degree beam angle. That's a very popular transducer, and that is a chirping transducer. So it's chirping 150 kilohertz through 240. So you're chirping all those frequencies. And then once you step up, I believe, to the, Danny, correct me if I'm wrong, the ECHOMAP UHD, the ECHOMAP Plus 73, that's going to come with the GT10, correct?
Yep, exactly.
Yep,
and one thing I kind of want to point out on these transducers too is you kind of look at it and you look at the price point and you think there's a good, better, best scenario, but actually, obviously the GT10 is an awesome, powerful transducer. 500 watts. We can go down to 7 degrees for the cone angle, but that GT8 being able to go all the way to 24 degrees. These guys that are ice fishing in the shallow water and like bluegill fishermen in shallow water and that kind of stuff, that GT8 is an awesome transducer. In fact, it's my choice for sure over the 10 when you get into that shallow water. So there's definitely, we cover a wide variety of customers and your types of fishing that you do. So both those transducers have their place for sure.
Great. That's a great point. And remember, these transducers all feature a silicone coated cable. They remain flexible in cold conditions. Anything else, Danny, you want to talk about with these transducers?
That's kind of the big thing. I mean, the transducers they're great transducers. We've really been able to team up with the transducer engineer to get some great, ability of these transducers for ice fishing. And the marks that we get, and we're going to look at some screenshots here in a little bit, but real nice thin arcs and great target separation. I mean, these transducers are really top of the line in the ice fishing industry right now.
Yeah, and they were designed specifically for ice fishing, nothing else. Yes. So as Danny mentioned, a couple of the screenshots that we wanted to go over. Danny, some of the color palettes, we've got the black, the white, the blue background. Do you have a preference you prefer, or how do you like setting up your screen?
And it's one of those things that is kind of funny because I like that black background, and in fact I like the maroon color scheme in night mode. It's kind of like my top choice, but it's hard because everybody's eyes see differently. So I always suggest, go into your appearance, pick out the color scheme that works best for you and also best for that day. Like maybe you're a guy that only fishes in a shelter where it's a little bit darker in there, or maybe you're a guy that fishes outside in the bright sunlight all the time where that white background will help stuff pop out and look a little bit better. And then of course the classic blue is always a good color palette, but it really will vary from person to person. It's hard to say this is the best color scheme you have to go with. So we have a wide variety of options. So you really you kind of pick the one that works best for you. And you can see, I mean, they're all kind of, they all show you the same thing. It's just a different color scheme. So
Yep, that's a great point. I know when I'm fishing with mine, depending on conditions, especially light conditions, early in the morning, I may have it on a certain screen palette, and as the day progresses, I'll end up completely, I'll probably go through 3 or 4 different palettes, depending on how the sun, where the sun is in the sky, if I've got fog, overcast, things like that. One thing I do want to point out, the cone angle right here. When I'm using this on my boat, I love to know the cone angle. So here, this is displaying at a 19-degree cone angle. We're looking at a 12-foot span across the bottom. So remember, guys, when that transducer is looking down, you're not looking directly down. You've got a 12-foot span across the bottom. And the deeper you go, the wider that cone angle is. So that's going to display on the screen. That's a great feature we added, Danny.
Yeah, for sure. In fact, that whole flasher screen is great. I mean, those are actually buttons. It is a touch screen, but if you click on range, you can change your range. You click on your gain, you can change your gain. and the cone angle and all that kind of stuff. So having all that right there on the screen, like you said, showing you how much of the bottom you're actually covering, and we'll talk about it more when we get into Panoptix.
Right.
It's a cool setup that we've got now on that flasher page.
So Danny, flasher versus your traditional screen. A lot of people out there aren't really familiar with the flasher, how to read it, why they should use that over, looking at a traditional screen. What do you recommend?
So this is one thing that's really cool about our units is the ability to split screen. And so for someone that's kind of just getting into it, or they're not, extremely confident in running a flasher yet, if you run it in the split screen like we're showing here, where you have your 2D on one side, you have your flasher on the other side, it really gives you a good understanding of what you're seeing. So, you'll see the line on the flasher represented with the depth next to it. So on the one on the lower right here with the blue background, you can kind of see the big red line is at about 26 feet. So that could be your bait, or that could be a fish in this case, is at 26 feet. So then, when you're ice fishing, you try to keep your jig right above that fish. And you can also see it, if you look at the 2D, you'll see the jig and you'll see a fish that had come in at one point at about 26 feet of water. So, a lot of people are used to seeing that 2D sonar. So if you'll look at that and then you compare it to what you're seeing on the flasher, that's a great way to learn how to read a flasher, and, definitely help you catch more fish because you have a better understanding of it.
Yeah, flashers have been around 30, 40, maybe even 50 years, and there's a reason why they're still out there. And there's a reason we're still putting them or including them into the chart plotters or the units for it, sorry. Looking at a few more screenshots, these are with the ECHOMAP series. The first one here on the top left, we've got our chart with our relief shading turned on with the flasher screen. Then we've got our Panoptix. So we have the Panoptix PS22, which we'll talk about in a minute. A couple of screenshots here, and then LiveScope on the bottom, our live down and our live forward. And that's really where pretty exciting stuff out there, isn't it, Danny? A lot of people are using these now.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, it's just the ability to see these fish in live time is just, there's nothing else like it.
It's crazy. I was talking to a gentleman the other day talking about, game, and I hate to use the word game changer out there, but there's been very few game changers in the industry, and LiveScope, Panoptix, and Panoptix LiveScope have truly been a game changer. Like Danny said, when you can see fish, see where they are, see structure, watch your lure presentation, it's truly amazing.
Yeah.
So a little deeper dive into the Striker 4, as Danny talked about. This is brand new. It's a market that we were not in. We didn't have that entry level, lower price point ice fishing kit. So we introduced a Striker Plus 4. You're going to get your 2D sonar here, your split screen with your flasher. And as Danny mentioned, these are a fish finder with a GPS built in. So these units don't have any mapping. So when we talk about Striker and the Striker Plus series, they don't come with mapping, and you can't add mapping, but they do have a GPS built in where you can mark, I think, up to 5,000 waypoints. So you can mark your fishing spots. If you're using this during the summer on the lake, you can mark those holes, those spots you're catching those fish in. You can mark the boat ramp. You can leave a little track line. And so you do have not mapping on it, but you do have the ability to mark waypoints.
Yeah, and one thing I want to point out too, as you look at these, and this is the case for kind of all our bundles, in the Striker 4 too, even at such a good price point, the bag that these units are in is a very high quality bag with a great zipper. It's got some D-rings on there for kind of strapping it down. Our small bundles, like the 4 and the 6 and the 7 that are in this small bag, they all fit into a 5-gallon bucket. The battery that comes in these things is a quality battery. On these Striker 4s, you're going to get amazing battery life. I mean, just really good quality products that we put into these things. It's not just a quick, bag that we made up. We put a lot of thought into every single piece, that kind of makes up each individual ice fishing bundle. And then, to tack onto the Striker 4 here a little bit, the great thing, and this holds true through the whole lineup too, but this is an awesome summer unit. I get a lot of people that use a Striker 4, especially, up here in the North Country, or maybe we go to Canada on a fly-in fishing trip or something like that, you can actually get a suction cup transducer that would hook into your Striker 4. So you could use this in a boat, and you've got the battery right there. So now you go into a fly-in trip in Canada with this Striker 4 ice bundle, and all you had to add to it was that summer transducer, and it works really well. You can map out up to 2 million acres of a lake up there and have a map. You have great 2D sonar. I mean, just a great versatile unit, and that's kind of what we were
Yep.
going for with all these.
Yep, and Danny made a great point. We're going to talk about this a little later, but all of these units, the Striker Plus and ECHOMAP units, all have the ability to do quick draw contour mapping, and we'll talk about that a little later. But I just wanted you to remember when we talk about quick draw and all the cool capabilities of quick draw, you can do that in the Striker Plus 4, which we'll talk about, like I said, in a few minutes. Again, the Striker 5 Plus, that was a model we had last year, very popular unit. We kept it around. You do get a bump up in the transducers with this unit. It does have Danny's favorite, the GT8 high wide transducer comes in this box. So you're going to pay a little more, but you get a little bigger screen, and you get that GT8 transducer. Same capabilities as the Striker 4. You get your 2D sonar, your flasher, GPS built in, and then the ability to do quick draw. Anything you want to add to the Striker 5, Danny?
The only thing I'd say on the 5 is, like you said it all, but the big thing is the bigger screen. And if you look, it's not just like a taller screen, it's actually a wider screen. And so when you want to start splitting, a map and a flasher, or a map and 2D or something like that, this gives you a lot better visibility of what you're trying to see just because of that wider screen.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Danny. If you want to use this as a summer unit on your boat, this unit does have clear view technology. So you do have scanning technology built in. So if you do buy the proper transducer for your boat, you're going to get your 2D sonar and our clear view scanning sonar as well.
Exactly.
Great. All right, let's keep going. So with the ECHOMAP UHDs, last year's models were the ECHOMAP Pluses. This year we've changed the ECHOMAP 63 and 73 are now ECHOMAP UHDs, and they're ultra high def sonars. So again, you're going to get everything we talked about in the Striker, but when you talk about an ECHOMAP, it has mapping built in. So now we have a unit that has the best of Navionics and Garmin mapping preloaded. So you get over 17,000 lakes preloaded. There's over 13,000 with 1 foot contours. You get a feature called relief shading, which we'll talk about in a minute. But these are definitely a step up, aren't they, Danny?
Yes. I mean, just the mapping abilities of these things is awesome. I mean, to think that you don't just have the map for, here in Minnesota where I'm at or something like that. If I want to go on a trip to Devil's Lake in North Dakota or Green Bay in Wisconsin, that map's in there, and I don't have to worry about, putting a different chip in or something like that. Like, just the amount of map information and what you can do with those maps on these units is a giant step up. And then, between the two, you go from you also get like a quick release bracket. So you can actually pop the head units right out of these things and put them into a boat or a side-by-side or something like that. They're very, the versatility starts to become even more when you start to step up with our units. And then of course that 73, I mean, that thing has the touch screen as well as your hotkeys, just a lot of really nice features on these ECHOMAPs.
Yeah, you made a great point with that mount. I actually have a portable bag, and I have an ECHOMAP 73 on my boat. And whenever I travel for Garmin or really travel anywhere, I pop that unit off the cradle in the boat. I pop it into my bag, and I travel with it. So if I'm out on a customer's boat, if I'm out, maybe I want to rent a kayak for a day or a canoe, I always have my sonar with me. So it makes it pretty handy.
Yeah, for sure.
So that is our line of ice fishing kits that contain 2D and flasher. And I just wanted to kind of show a slide here to make sure everybody's aware of how a sonar works. And basically, when that sonar shoots the beam down to the bottom and you get that returning echo, you're going to see a fish or what we call a chevron right here. Just remember, when you see the beginning of that chevron, that fish has entered the cone. The highest point of that chevron is when that fish is in the very center of the transducer. And when you see the very tail end of that chevron, that's when the fish is actually leaving the cone. So what do we see on a sonar right here? We see the tail end of that fish. So that's telling me that fish has already gone through our sonar cone. So remember earlier we were talking about, hey, that sonar cone, if I'm in, 30 feet of water, I could be looking at a 20-foot span across the bottom. What I see on the screen, sometimes those fish are not directly below the boat. They're outside the boat, outside of that cone angle. So you may have to hunt for them. So with that being said, we introduced Panoptix and Panoptix LiveScope. And here's a great example of Danny using Panoptix LiveScope. You drill one hole in the ice, put that Panoptix PS22 or the Panoptix LiveScope down into the water, turn that around 360. You can see exactly where those fish are. Maybe Danny's pointing at some fish about 50 or 60 yards away. Or feet away, I'm sorry, 50 or 60 feet away. And now he can go over, drill the hole, and you'll be right on top of them. You use this quite a bit, don't you, Danny?
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what I'm doing is I'm sitting there on a big lake and we're actually walleye fishing in this scenario. And you can see I've got this was actually a PS22 Panoptix kit that I've got down, and I'm actually pointing to where the school of fish had moved to. And so you can see my buddy Derek there kind of in the background just fishing under like a flasher. And so in this case, what he would do and what I would do is we would then move over to that 50 feet away where those fish had moved to, and then try to get back on top of the school of fish and catch them. And it just keeps you kind of in that zone, a lot more often than in the past where we'd drill a hole, we'd sit there all day long kind of waiting for the fish to come to us. In this case, we can actually find those fish and even, like you said, find the structure that they might be on.
Right. That's a great point. You can drill 40 holes a day, or you can drill two, one for Panoptix and then drill the other one over the fish. Pretty incredible.
Yep, exactly.
So our first version of Panoptix is the Panoptix PS22. So that ice fishing bundle is going to come with everything you need. The Panoptix PS22, that's going to give you the ability to do live forward, as you see in this first picture on the left. So, the PS22 shoots one frequency, 417 kilohertz. It's good for up to 200 feet forward or 200 feet down. So, I don't think you've got that depth of water up in Minnesota, do you, Danny?
No,
but go ahead.
I was gonna say the one cool thing about Panoptix though is, and and now we'll talk about LiveScope, and how cool that is. But Panoptix, the great thing about this for ice fishing is the distance that it can see. You can see so far with the PS22. I mean, finding schools of crappies at 100, 150 feet away is not impossible in these basin lakes we have up here. And so there's a lot of people that really, like, I still use the PS22 all the time, especially for that type of fishing. Just the sheer distance that you can see is so good.
Yeah, and what Danny is kind of referring to is that, again, with frequencies, the lower the frequency, the further the distance. The higher the frequencies, the shallower or the narrow or the shallower the distance. So with Panoptix, the PS22, it's 417 kilohertz. So you're going to get a longer range, a longer distance than with LiveScope. LiveScope is 530 through 1100 kilohertz. So that's pinging all those frequencies at the same time. So you're going to get a much better picture back or a return back with LiveScope, the distance in there. So like I fish a lot of salt water, and I prefer the PS22 on my boat when I'm looking, trying to look over 100, 150 feet in the water column. I prefer the PS22 versus LiveScope. When I'm fishing shallower water, 60, 70 feet casting distance, that's when I like to go switch to the LiveScope. Wouldn't you agree, Danny?
Yep, for sure.
Good. So looking at the Panoptix LiveScope beam angle. So the Panoptix LiveScope's got a 20-degree beam angle from port to starboard and 135 degrees down. And basically what that means, if let's say you're fishing and you're looking 60 foot in front of you. Well, at a 60-foot span in front of you, you're looking at a 22-foot span across from left to right or port to starboard. So chances are when Danny's pointing that LiveScope transducer with that 20-degree narrow beam, when he sees those fish and he goes drills that second hole, he can pretty much be almost right on top of them, or at least enough when he drops that bait down or drops that lure down, he's going to be close enough that he's going to get a reaction. So remember, it's 20 degree by 135. So even when you're looking forward in that forward mode, you still have a 130-degree beam angle. So you're actually looking directly below you as well and a little bit in back of you. So with the Panoptix LiveScope, you have two views. You have a live down or a live forward. So that's basically just one click of that transducer. You know, you're probably going to have it mounted on a pole. I have mine because I do a lot of freshwater fishing and saltwater fishing. I have mine mounted on the trolling motor. So all you have to do is bring that pole out of the water, do one click, and it'll go to live forward, or one click live down. Danny, when you're using LiveScope, do you do forward mostly, or do you switch back and forth once you get over the spot? How do you work your LiveScope?
You know, so for me, I actually prefer just to leave it in the forward because you do have such a wide cone angle. You have that 135 degrees. So even as I'm looking forward, I'm looking backwards, let's say, a little bit.
Correct.
You
Correct.
know, and so for me, that has always worked well. Now, a lot of guys, when they get into their fish house or you're in a crank down house or something like that, they do like the down because when you put it in the down, you know, you're covering, you know, almost your entire fish house or probably your entire fish house and then some in that view. And they don't need to see beyond that. They're just kind of watching the baits that are under them. I like
Right.
the forward because I can watch my baits that are under me as well as kind of in the distance in whatever direction I happen to be pointing that transducer. So there's no right or wrong there. It just kind of depends on how you fish and you know, if you're in more of the fishing mode or more of the scout mode, I think would be dependent on how you use that transducer.
And remember, with Panoptix LiveScope, because you have that frequency of 530 through 1100, you're not going to get that range like you do with the Panoptix PS22. So, you know, here, probably 70, 80 feet is how I like to set mine. You know, in the summer months, it's casting distance. You know, if I can cast 60, 70 feet, that's where I set my range on LiveScope. So again, it depends on how you fish, whether you want to go, if you're going to go up to either the Panoptix PS22 or go with the Panoptix LiveScope.
Yeah, and the other thing though with that to kind of tack on to LiveScope is how what you do lose a little bit of that range, but however the target separation is incredibly I don't like good with LiveScope. I mean, if you got these tiny little ice jigs and you got fish that are right on the bottom, with LiveScope you can pick those fish out right on the bottom a little bit better than you could with that Panoptix. And part of that is probably those higher frequencies.
Right, right. That's also a great point. It's like, you know, some of our pro staff, when I talk to them about LiveScope, first times they used it, they say, you know, Dal, I can see the fish out in front of me and I can see my lure coming through the water on LiveScope. And, you know, knowing that there's fish there and you're targeting fish and you're on those fish is one thing. But knowing, Danny, that they don't want that lure that day, maybe you're throwing, you know, a pumpkin worm and
Yep.
and you pull it through 3 or 4 times, you go, these fish don't want a pumpkin worm. You change baits. Instead of making 100 casts and going, okay, this is my go-to bait, I know they're going to hit it. Well, no, they're not. I should have changed. And with Panoptix LiveScope, you're going to see those fish there, and you're going to know if they want that lure that day. Pretty
Exactly.
incredible.
Well, and especially when it's 40 below zero outside and you have to drill through 2 feet of ice just to move to a new spot. I mean, the cool thing with LiveScope is we can put it down, we can see, and maybe those fish just aren't right under you, but they're 60 feet away. They're on that piece of structure you're fishing. it's a lot better than running around chasing fish when it's that cold out and having to drill so many holes. So it just, a lot of times it's not the fish that you see catching on it, it's the information that you get from using it that makes it such a great tool.
Correct, correct. So with that being said, we offer a 7-inch and a 9-inch model with Panoptix LiveScope. So that's going to come with the LiveScope transducer, the bag, everything ready to go. This kit is basically complete, isn't it, Danny?
Yes, everything is in that bag, and I mean, it's for the most part, it comes assembled, other than a few things. I mean, you grab that thing and you can be fishing in 10 minutes.
So Danny, with the battery, what's the battery life on a LiveScope or on your Panoptix bundle? What?
Yeah, so obviously it's going to be a little bit longer with the Panoptix because with the LiveScope you're running a little bit more stuff with that black box that kind of goes with the LiveScope. So a lot of times I'll tell people, it's kind of like your cell phone. If you have backlight at 100% and everything running in the background, you're going to maybe look at that 8-hour to 10-hour time frame with a PS22 Panoptix kit. The LiveScope, you might be in that 6 to 8 hour. Now, if you turn your backlight down a little bit, you can significantly increase the runtime. And then there is, a lot of guys are actually do some of the lithium battery aftermarket stuff as well. But, the battery that comes in there is great battery, and you can get basically a full day of fishing out of it.
Gotcha. And going back up to the strikers, with the battery like there, you're probably going to get a couple of fishing trips out of a battery.
Yeah. I mean, that's one really good thing with like our flasher bundles, I'll call them, like the Striker 4 through the 73. The battery life on those is so good. I mean, and even like I was talking, you take that kit and you go to Canada where maybe you're at a resort or a lodge that doesn't have electricity. You don't have to charge it because you're going to get quite a few days out of that Striker 4 and those 63s and some of those just on the one charge.
Right. And a couple of differences I also want to mention with the Panoptix PS22, that transducer plugs straight into the back of the unit, where with LiveScope, with the LiveScope system, it's going to come with the GLS 10, which is a black box. So the transducer actually plugs into the black box, and the black box plugs into the network port on the back of the unit. So you've got an extra box that's going to be in that bag, so it's going to be drawing a little more power.
Yep, exactly.
So we also offer a Panoptix LiveScope ice fishing kit as well. That's new. So let's say you've already have an ECHOMAP. It has to be an ECHOMAP 73 or bigger. So you can go with a 73 or 93. If you already have a ECHOMAP unit and you want to turn it into a Panoptix ice fishing kit, you can buy the Panoptix LiveScope ice fishing kit that will come with the transducer, the black box, everything ready to go. So you just mount your unit and you're good to go.
Yeah, and the cool thing with this kit now is you can fit all the way up to our ECHOMAP Ultra, like a 106 or 10-inch ECHOMAP Ultras. That will fit in this bag. And I've even had people put as big as a 12 ECHOMAP in there. Obviously, you can't zip it shut with the 12 in there, but you can put a 10 in there and you can zip it shut. And I mean, that's a pretty awesome ice fishing unit.
That's good to know that you can put an ECHOMAP Ultra into those kits.
Yeah.
So the last couple of things I want to talk about, we talked about QuickDraw earlier. I just want to go over this. So this works in basically all of our units, the Striker Plus series, as well as the ECHOMAPs, and then our higher end GPS map series. So QuickDraw Contours gives you the ability to make your own maps. And we were talking earlier, the Strikers are come with a GPS, but there's no mapping built in. Well, the Strikers have the ability to draw. You can make up to 2 million acres of mapping. So when you go into your Striker to your GPS page and turn your QuickDraw on, you're going to see a little green circle pop up around the boat, and as you drive, we call it kind of mowing the grass. It's going to build 1-foot contours, so you can build the most up-to-date maps and charts of that lake you're on. This is critical, Danny, when you're fishing a lake and you need to know where the drop-offs are, where the humps, the hills, where's the shallow water.
Yeah.
This is
And you
something
know,
I use all the time.
across much of the ice fishing belt in the northern, part of the country here, there's a lot of lakes that are kind of secluded, and there's maybe no public access. And I can think of a lot of them across the Dakotas that I fish where, we've gone there and we've went and quick drew the lakes when we were out there in the summertime. And now I have that map when I'm ice fishing. So I'm not wasting time drilling a bunch of holes when it's cold
Yep.
out. I can go right to that hump or right to that spot because I have a map of it now.
Right. And that's why, if you're using this in the summer months on your boat, turn QuickDraw on. When I go out, I never turn QuickDraw off. I'm constantly drawing mapping. So during the summer months, you're drawing mapping. And you're drawing that contour. And then during the winter months, when you're using it on the ice, you know exactly where to go. So the strikers have the ability internally to store up to 2 million acres. I just want to make a point. The ECHOMAP series, you have to put up to a 32 gigabyte micro SD card in the memory slot there, right here. And then that's where QuickDraw is saved. So if you're not using QuickDraw now, turn it on, use it. We also, in the ECHOMAP series, they also have a feature called relief shading, where you can actually go onto that lake, turn on, maybe that the whatever you're targeting that day, you're getting hits in 15 to 20 feet of water. So I can shade in that lake in 15 to 20 feet in red, and maybe blue 20 to 25, and green 25 to 30. So if my buddies are all fishing different water depths and we all start talking and go, hey, these fish are hitting in 30 feet of water, I can go to the green area and know that, hey, that's where the 30 to 35 feet of water is. So that's where those fish should be hanging.
Yeah, and I've used this actually on some ice fishing trips where I was to a new body of water I had never been to, and what we found is these crappies were actually holding in kind of like these humps out, surrounded by deep water, but they'd come to these humps, and I think the bait fish were getting held up there. So we, highlighted, the main basin of the lake was maybe 35 feet of water, and so I highlighted anything that came up into like 25, 20 feet of water, and actually found all these humps that I didn't know about because I had never been to them lakes before. And then we were able to take our Panoptix or LiveScope and just go hump to hump, see if there was any fish on it. If there was, we'd catch them, and then we could move on to the next one, and really made, quick work of a lake that I had never even been to.
That's another great point, Danny. You could do this the night before. You can do all your research. You can turn the unit on when you're in your cabin, go to that lake, turn relief shading on, shade it in. So when you get out on the water, get out on the ice, you kind of know where you need to go. So,
Yeah. And it
yeah,
ties into your app on your phone with the Active Captain app where I can do the shading on my phone. I can save those waypoints while I'm laying in bed the night before my fishing trip. And when I get out there, it all goes into my unit and the depth shading. And, it just, there's a lot of cool pieces to these units.
right. There's a lot of great reasons why you may want to step up to the ECHOMAP series. Couple other things before we end this. Accessories, tons of accessories. This is only a few of the accessories I wanted to list here. You can buy the bag, transducers, the ice fishing mount right here. One quick thing I do want to point out, Danny was talking about going from the winter to the summer months, putting it on your boat. We sell boat kits where you can it comes with a bracket, the transducer for the boat, the power cable. So once you have this mounted on the boat, all you do is pop it off the cradle and put it in your ice fishing kit. Even if you have the Striker series out there, we sell all the accessories, the mounts, transducers, anything you need. There's tons of accessories available.
Yeah. And that's the cool part. Like if you are looking, you have a unit or you have LiveScope or you have something and you want to turn it into an ice fishing kit or even just a portable kit for that matter, we have an option for you. And this is just a small amount of the many accessories we have. So if you're looking, if you check out the website and you look at the ice fishing stuff, there is an option for you to turn no matter what unit you have into an ice fishing kit in reality.
Right. Yep. Well, that is it for us. We want to thank you guys for joining us. If you have any questions, please shoot an email to marine.training@garmin.com. Please, in the subject line, put ice fishing, and we will answer those questions and get back to you as quick as we can. If you enjoyed this webinar, we have other webinars on our Garmin YouTube page, so please check those out. Danny, I want to thank you for joining us today. A lot of great info.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was fun.
All right, buddy. So from Danny and myself, thank you guys again for joining us. Hope to see you out on the water. Take care.